The ancient Greeks believed that when you read aloud, it was actually the dead, borrowing your tongue in order to speak again. Ruth Ozeki. The day I lost grandfather was also the day I lost my sight. I wasn't always blind, but when the nights got too dark or the once familiar streets became hazy, grandfather was always there for me. Papa was worried, as always. Our home was simple, and I didn't even need to have the furniture spaced out. The hard part was going outside without grandfather. Papa read to me in the nights. When he did, I could see everything again. The colors, shapes, and patterns. They all came back, and my imagination, like an engine, made new worlds from the spoken words. One night, Papa told me a special story. It had been almost a month since grandfather had passed, and Papa thought that it was time to read the bedtime story. "Are you comfy?" Papa said, the armchair creaking slightly as he eased into it. I nodded, eagerly waiting for him to begin. You see, the bedtime story was written by grandfather, and Papa was told to read it to me when he thought I was ready. I heard him clear his throat, and he began to read. On another lonely planet, there lived a little girl. She read lots of books about other planets and marveled at the wondrous creatures. She longed to travel through the stars to visit them. But she was very sad, for she had no way of leaving. Her planet was empty, except for a small bedroom with a fire stove crackling in the corner, and shelves filled with her books. At this, my ears perked up, because my bedroom was small, with a fire stove crackling in the corner, and shelves filled with my books. Papa held my hand, and I heard the familiar rustle as he turned the page. One day, the little girl got fed up with her lonely planet, and she became very angry. She started to punch the walls and knock over her books. Eventually, she turned to the fire stove. She started ripping it apart until it was a pile of hot scrap metal. Realizing what she had done, she sat on the floor in despair. That night was a cold and sleepless night. What happens next, Papa? I asked anxiously. The little girl was already very sad, but without her fire stove, she would be miserable. It was horrible. It's all right, little one, Papa said in a soothing voice. I turned my head towards the fire stove. It was still crackling, and I could still smell the wood burning, so I nodded for him to continue. The next morning, the little girl woke and saw what she had done. But bad dreams don't look half as daunting in the daylight, so she set to work. There was no way she could put it back together, but she could make something new. With a determined look on her face. "Papa, what does determined mean?" I asked. It sounded like a very brave word. I was beginning to understand what grandfather was saying. I think he wanted me to be brave. Determined means someone who pushes through when others don't. Do you like that word, little one? I nodded, but I knew that I didn't just like that word. It felt like the word would soon belong to me if I looked after it enough. With a determined look on her face, the little girl spent the whole morning banging and clanging. She came up with plenty of strange and curious contraptions, most of which didn't work. But the little girl kept on working until the stars came out. Finally, she had built something that worked. The bed I sat in was far away now. but the world in my head was still foggy. What had she built? It was a telescope, and when she looked, she was absolutely awestruck. She saw the planets that she had read about and all the marvelous creatures that lived there. The little girl was no longer sad. She may not be able to visit the planets yet, but she knew that with her determination, she would soon be able to visit them. The end. My father's voice sounded distant as the colors blazed. The crackling of the fire stove rose to a roar in my ears, and I saw the telescope burning brightly into the night as fantastical creatures rode past on great stars with shimmering tails. Grandfather's words were clear. I leapt from my bed and thrust my bedroom window wide open and breathed in the night air deeply. It smelt of promise and new life and was buzzing with possibility. Grandfather's vibrant world flickering through the dark streets, lighting up every corner. To my surprise, I heard a soft, choked sound behind me. I listened and realized that Papa was sobbing. Now I reached out my hand for him to hold, because I knew that he was hurting too. We had both lost grandfather, but now I knew what to do. Tomorrow morning, I was going to be determined. I was going to practice walking the streets again.